Okay, now we're starting with midpoint, part 2. Now remember that the midpoint divides a segment into two equal parts. Here we have an equation, our problem, which says, what is the measure of line segment BC if point B is the midpoint of AC? Point B, that is the midpoint. So what that tells us is line segment AB is congruent to line segment BC, which means that they have the same measure. So we can conclude that the distance from A to B is the same as the distance from B to C. Okay, now, since AB is 4x minus 5, in place of AB, we're going to substitute 4x minus 5. Bring down our equal sign. BC is 11 plus 2x. Okay? Alright. Anytime you have a midpoint, you could just go ahead and put the equal sign above the midpoint. And you know that the left side is equal to the right side because it divides it into two equal parts. See how easy that is? Okay, now we want to solve. We need to get the x's on one side by itself. So we're going to subtract 2x from both sides, and we'll get 2x minus 5 is equal to 11. Okay, then we need to get rid of the minus 5, which is to add to both sides. So that'll give us 2x is equal to 11 plus 5, which is 16. Then we divide both sides by 2, and we get that x is equal to 8. So it asks us to solve for the variable, so x is equal to 8. Okay, now since x is equal to 8, we have that x is equal to 8. Step 2 says to substitute the variable in to find the missing segments. So we're given that AB is represented by the expression 4x minus 5. So in place of x, we're going to put 8. So we have 4 times 8 minus 5. 4 times 8 is 32, minus 5 is 27. So therefore, the distance from A to B is 27. What's the measure of BC? Well, since point B is the midpoint, remember that they are the same. So the distance from A to B is 27, distance from B to C is 27. So therefore, they are the same. Now, what's the measure of AC? Well, AC, we can get that one of two ways. We could add those two together, or we could multiply times 2. Multiply times 2, 27 times 2. And we get that AC is 54. Okay, so the last example that we'll go over before going back to your graspable problems is number 2. What is the measure of line segment PR? We're going from P to R. If, remember, Q is our midpoint, which means what? It means that PQ and QB or QR are the same. Okay, so let's just go ahead and write that down. Don't forget to show your work. All this information that I'm writing down, that's what you need to write down. Okay, PQ is equal to QR. This is what is the measure of line segment PR if point Q is the midpoint. Okay, so we know that those are equal. Okay, now, what do we put in for PQ? Well, we know that, all right, so we have it set up this time. Okay. Now, remember our problem, we had that point Q is the midpoint of line segment PR, which tells us that the midpoint divides the segment into two equal parts. So we notated with our tick marks. one tick mark, one tick mark. So that tells us that PQ and QR have the same distance. Okay, so that is a conclusion given that point Q is the midpoint. Given to us that the distance from Q to R is 6 minus 3x. It's also given to us that the distance from P to R, which is the whole segment, is equal to 14x plus 2. Now, since PR is the whole segment, then the whole segment is equal to 2 times half of it. Okay, so that's where we get this equation. The whole segment is equal to 2 times one piece of it. Because if this divides it in the middle, if I take this piece and put it on top of that piece, they'll be the same. So when I attach them, they're equal to the whole piece, PR. Okay, I hope you got all that. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get down to business. Put it to our transform. Remember, we need to have transform. This is the crosshairs is to a range, so that allows you to pick things up easily. Okay, so now we're going to transform. But do notice that we have a few things that are equal. Okay, a few terms that are equal. We have QR is equal to 6 minus 3x. And look, we have a QR here. Let's just move this over a little bit. Okay. Now, since we have QR equal to an expression, we can take the QR, we need to group it by using the space bar. We'll bring it down and put it on top of QR, and it substitutes the equation, the expression that is equal to 6 minus 3x. Okay, then we have that PR is equal to 14x plus 2. We'll move that over a little. Okay, so now I can take PR. Remember, we want to start with that. Press the space, the shift key down, and then it's highlighted, and then we can move that on top of PR, and it gives what it's equal to. Whew, hallelujah. Okay, now we can simplify. Remember, parentheses first. So let's go ahead and click. First time it doesn't click, it'll tell you to double click. Okay, so that it will simplify that. Let's see if we need to double click here. Yes, okay, so that gets rid of the parentheses, the double click. All right, then we want to put the variables on the same side, so we'll put it over there. And then the numbers on the other. Okay, good. Then we want to simplify. Simplify both sides. Woohoo! And then we take the 20 and divide it both sides. Okay, click to simplify. And it gives us that x is equal to 1/2. All right, now we need to find the distance from Q to R, and then we'll know P to R also. So once again, we can take that value, move that on. We can take the value of x and substitute into a problem here, put it there, and then we'll let the computer go to work. Okay? You could double click that one. I knew it was going to be a double click. Okay, and then minus. And the distance from Q to R is 4.5. PR, we can do the same thing here. Bring that X over. Since it's just 1, we don't have to do the space bar. And we can put that there. Multiply it. And we add. And we have that PR is 7. So basically what that's telling us is that QR is half of PR, which is 9. And look at all that work we did. Bring it all the way down and find all that work, all that beautiful work that Graspable did for us. And we come up with QR equal 4.5, PR is 9, and we also know that PQ is 4.5. So we could enter that because that's what they're asking us to find. Ooh, thank God for Graspable, huh? Okay, so all we have to do now is just practice, 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 and we'll have it. So QR is 4.5, PR is 9, PQ is 4.5, X is 1/2. All right, let's try it. Good luck.